can I say? I take things like a champ.
Yeah, the whole point is for you to have a reaction shot. You're like, this is delicious.
Whole point is you guys better find something that's actually gonna phase me from now on.
Whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife, Mark?
I keep them separated. Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone. I'm like,
Wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart. But sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
yeah.
Go.
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?
Hey, Jeff,
Yes, Mark.
go suck a lemon.
So you guys have asked me to bring a lemon to the show.
Right.
Yes, we have.
Would you like to explain why?
Well, it just so happens you lost a bet on the last episode. And now that lemon will be ingested by one Jeff Sano.
Like,
Now, we don't want to make it boring with the people, who usually eats the inside of a lemon. If you ever watch the movie...
is there many people who usually eat the inside of a lemon? I mean...
Not in things.
in things, of course. I could easily go get a bunch of Coronas and make this challenge simple.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But what we're thinking is that you should eat it K-Pack style, where you eat the peel as well as the inside.
Does
So
he
you're
eat
eating
the
the
lemon in
whole lemon.
K-Packs?
Oh, he ate a banana with the banana skin, but this is
Okay, that's
be
right.
a lemon with a lemon skin.
This is a lemon. Now, you guys said you didn't want me to bring any weak lemons to the party.
That's right, dwarf. I figured you'd
dwarf
find
lemon,
a lemon
that's-
that was like an inch long.
I mean, this is a good-sized lemon.
Right.
Good sized lemon here. At least you didn't
I
ask me
feel
to eat
super-
an avocado with a pit.
I feel super unprepared. I should have had readily available the person who emailed something about a lemon, but I don't, and I'm trying to find it, and it's not going well.
Did they
So-
specifically say, like, have Jeff eat a lemon?
Yeah, there was a lemon suggestion somewhere. I just can't find it. But let me, real quick, before we get talking about it more, let me thank everybody who wrote in, because we did get a lot of emails and posts to the videos and stuff with suggestions about this, which made it kind of hard for Mark and I because we had a lot of good stuff to choose from. But
Right.
thank you to everybody who wrote in.
Now, I just want to throw out that a lot of people did suggest that Jeff go in drag, but it's something Jeff does on a normal basis.
I mean,
so
yeah,
it's not much
I had to
fun.
change out of my drag to do this show. I mean,
Well, that and Mark and I were kind of concerned that those of you who listen like on the audio side and don't watch the video, like it really has no effect.
yes, because you guys watching me eat a lemon will be very auditorially amazing.
I have a funny feeling that as you eat that lemon, you're going to be reacting to it involuntarily, and certainly Mark and I are going to be laughing at it.
So, am I eating this lemon as if it were like an apple, just like, or like, am I supposed to rip it apart and then eat it all just separately?
I mean,
No,
I
I think-
guess you can eat it however you want, but
Well, we'll eat it all apple style. But while I'm eating this lemon, it's not going to be a quick eat of a lemon. But for one, I do follow through on my bets. So just so everybody knows this here, we should continue to talk about something else because this is going to take a little while. But we can start now.
Okay. All right, so Jeff's
I can't
taking
even break through the skin.
Jeff's taking the first bite, and it looks like
it's really difficult.
I can smell it, but I can't get through the skin.
I've never
Alright, so-
attempted to eat like a fruit
It's
with
really,
the peel on.
it's. I
So
mean, you guys. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm like,
Jeff is trying.
it's got
Yeah,
mad teeth marks.
So
in
for
it.
those of you on the audio side, which by the way, you should definitely go check this video out on YouTube. But Jeff is trying to bite into the lemon like an apple.
There we go.
He made giant teeth marks in it,
It's juicy.
and it just would break the skin.
Now, see, I'm impressed that Jeff didn't bring any salt. I don't know if salt would make it less sour or
Well,
because like when you do
with a lemon, you would do sugar,
okay.
Yeah, you would
Well,
definitely.
yeah, but like when you do tequila shots, you use salt.
but you use a lime.
Well,
Look,
a lot of
drink,
people
sunscreen,
use
baby.
lemons, too.
I use lemons.
Yeah, I use lemons.
You guys
You
are
can-
I'm not
crazy.
doing it wrong.
I use limes. I use lemons with vodka, like the sugar. Wait, what do they call it?
Yeah, sugar drops.
Sugar, is that what they call it? Sugar drops?
I think so.
Woo, it's a little bit sweet. Or yes, sweet. That's what we'll say. Sweet. The rind makes it so hard to like bite through it like an apple because it's so tough.
I know Jeff secretly painted in orange yellow. Like this orange is sweet.
And I got one that was shaped like a lemon too. It's actually a lime, and I've just got a green screen filter. Suckers.
So, while we're
Ooh.
while everyone is watching Jeff, who's watching on the YouTube side, watching Jeff. eat his
Cheers.
lime.
Join me. Grab a lemon. Join me.
Let's talk about the Super Bowl, because I don't want to talk about this at great length because this is not a sports podcast.
All right.
In fact, I'll keep my sports side of it down to 5 minutes.
Okay.
Awesome Super Bowl. Great Super Bowl.
One of the best Super Bowls I've seen in
It's-
many years.
It's the best I've ever seen, period, for sure. It totally lived up to the hype. Like going into this, Vegas was pretty even on this, and they were pretty much right. It was a great back and forth game. You could make the argument that 5 players on the field were probably the best players at their position in all of football. Like, it was just a great, absolutely great game, back and forth. The first like quarter and a half, the Patriots looked like they were just going to run away with this thing.
All
And
right.
then the Seahawks just started doing what they always do. Their defense started tightening up and not allowing the Patriots to move down the field like they had been. Came back, tied it up at half, and then came out in the second half and just kept that momentum rolling. Like, I thought that the Patriots were done in the third quarter. I mean, the Seahawks just looked like the dominant team at that point. And then the Patriots do what they always do, and they just start. Tom Brady starts marching down the field, with Gronk and Amendola and Edelman and company. And sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Now I heard that there was a because I didn't actually watch the game, so this is all speculation and hearsay on my part. But I heard that basically the Seahawks could have won just if they would have ran in the touchdown instead of trying to pass it in.
Okay, so here's what I want to say about that.
I was hoping there was a better answer than, yup, they could have.
Yeah. Oh, I have strong opinions on this. I'm kind of surprised that the media is all over this like they are.
So before you get into that a little bit more, for those who didn't see it, or Mark, you didn't see it.
No.
So what you missed at the end is the Seahawks were down by 4?
4.
They were down by 4.
Yeah, and then I was going to say I was going to go into this drive like in depth because I feel like
go
parts
into the
of
drive.
it are important. This is the last Seahawks drive of the game, and Lynch, the running back, Marshawn Lynch, the running back for Seattle, arguably the best running back in the NFL, which Jeff just had to pull a seed out of his teeth. That was awesome. But for the game, Lynch had been averaging 4.2 yards a carry. Okay,
Right.
So every time he carried the ball, he's averaging 4.2 yards, which is a great average.
Right.
So this drive started at the Seahawks' own 20. In 3 plays, they moved just about all the way down the field. They had a 31-yard pass to Lynch out of the backfield, caught a ball for 31 yards. They had another pass for 11 yards, which I believe was the very next play. Then I think they had 2 incomplete passes, but then the 33-yard amazing juggling Jerome Curse circus catch, which will go down as one of the best catches in all of Super Bowl history. Had the Seahawks won the game, probably the best. But because it's a loss, that's going to skew that a little bit, I think.
No, Mark, if you didn't see any of this stuff, right?
No,
you don't
I
like
didn't.
replays or anything?
No, actually,
This is one of those catches that the offensive coach must have been like patting that boy on the shoulders for so long because he kind of got out defended
Right.
Jumped up for the
The
ball.
coverage was great.
Couldn't get the ball. The ball comes down as he's going to the ground. Somehow ricochets like off of his shin and then bounces off the bottom of his foot as he's rolling on his back. This dude never takes his eyes off the ball. The whole way to the ground, sees this happening. The defender does not. Is able to reach out on the ground after like doing like 360 flips and stuff. Bloop, grabs the ball and brings it in like it was absolutely nothing. Like it was like his eyes he maintained focus on that ball so
incredible
well.
Concentration.
So
incredible.
So it wasn't. I mean, maybe it bouncing off his shoe or whatever. What might have been a fluke, but his concentration on the ball was absolutely
Correct.
100%.
Yeah, he didn't he didn't kick it
though.
up because he knew that, but no, it was a fluke that hit his foot, but because he kept watching that ball with the diligence that he did, it was the only reason that catch could be made.
Well, and like the first time it got to his hands as he's falling backwards out of the sky from trying to catch this thing, like it wasn't like it just went off his foot and into his hands. It just hit his hands, but because he was focused on it, he was ready for it, and he just kind of juggled it a couple times, never stopped going for it, and made the catch. It was awesome. 33 yards down the field.
So
then that brings him to the 5-yard line.
I was going to say, this controversial play, was that in the fourth quarter?
No, this is all the very last drive. Less than a minute to go. Like less than a minute to go.
So this would have been the make or break play.
Yep.
Would have basically decided the winner. Okay.
So that catch gets him down to the 5-yard line, 5 yards away from scoring a touchdown. They hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, who gets 4 yards. So it's then second down and goal from the 1-yard line. Everyone in that stadium knows that Lynch is the right call here. This is why I don't have nearly as big of a problem as everybody else with this call. Is that the Patriots defense also knew that Marshawn Lynch was going to get that ball. The pass selection was awful because the interception was a short slant. Now, if you know there's going to be 8 or 9 guys stacked up in that
spoiler,
box,
Mark, there's an interception that happens.
Yeah. So that's the controversial call, is they did not hand the ball off to this running back from the 1-yard line who's been averaging 4 yards a carry and one of the best running backs in the league.
So the pass at the 1-yard line, what down was it?
Second
down. So he could have ran it.
If you're playing for the game, you have 2 more downs to run with this guy. And that's exactly what they would have done. I can guarantee you that.
Right.
But they threw a pass, which, like I said, I don't think the Patriots would have been ready for if they would have called the right pass. But with everybody blocked up there, ready to stop the run, an inside slant is not the pass they should have called. They should have called something to the outside, a post or something like that. And if they had anything to the outside and he had a minute, or 5 seconds to throw the ball, that was a touchdown and a great call. And by the way, if he makes that catch, which Marshall Butler made an outstanding play on that ball to intercept it. Like it wasn't a bad pass, like clearly into the defender's hands. Like he made a great play on that ball. He jumped that route early. He knew what was happening and he read it perfect. Great interception. If that receiver makes that catch though, if Marshall or Butler doesn't read it like he did, Pete Carroll looks like a genius because that's a touchdown and it wins the Super Bowl.
Now, how often do you think people like somebody running back, whatever, fumbles a ball? It's got to be pretty low.
Pretty low.
Statistically. Interceptions actually happen not high, but much higher than probably fumbles.
I would say higher than fumbles, yeah.
And even when it's piled on like that, running the ball, you still get like half a yard to a yard. I think pretty much on average. Like I would say, when you run a ball, you on average get about 2 yards, even if the defensive line is piled up like that.
There's a difference with your goal line D stance, though.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
I understand
Because
that.
you expect that run.
I don't know. I still think maybe one try you might not get it, but like if you do the play twice, there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to make a touchdown.
I mean, that's all.
Well,
The odds were in the favor of Marshawn Lynch to be able to punch it in? Sure.
Correct.
Question: how many timeouts did the Seahawks have at this point? I don't even remember.
I believe they had one, which is what, if I'm not mistaken, that was part of Pete Carroll's defense when they asked him about that call, was that he didn't feel like he had time to run it 3 times because he was going to run out of time.
And I can see that. See, I personally, I'm with you exactly, Mike. I was shocked when I watched it happen because I thought Seahawks just won that game. I thought it was going to be over.
Yep.
I watched that interception and I was just like, I was blown away. And the announcer initially, right away, said, "What a bad call. Why would they have not given it to Lynch?" Like, I mean, the second the play happened, and I was like, well, because I expected them to give it to Lynch. I'm sure everybody expected them to give it to Lynch. Like, that was one of those catch them off guard, win the game. And like you said, had they gotten that touchdown doing that, he would have looked at him as a genius for doing what nobody was expecting him to do.
This whole past,
Yep.
well, by time, I assume this is going to air on Wednesday. So by time you guys see this, this is like the Super Bowl is a week old for us. Yeah, this whole last week we would have been listening to stories and reading articles about how Pete Carroll is one of the greatest minds in football right now, rather than what an idiot he made the wrong call.
No, you think that the reason that the interception happened was because the balls were overinflated?
No, definitely not, because you must have missed the story, you know. So for those of you who don't know, like, I'm a gigantic football fan, so I probably watched like 3 hours of Super Bowl pregame on that day. I think I turned on my TV to football coverage like at noon, and the game started at 6:30 Eastern. So they did at one point say that to avoid that, they put like computer chips in the footballs so that they know at all times.
So all footballs have tire pressure monitoring systems going on now. Can they like, is there a screen at the side? The thing would be like, football 28, you're looking a little low there. Like,
here's the weird thing, is that let's say the Patriots did inflate their balls, right? I mean, deflate their balls. I still think the Patriots would have done extremely well and probably would have gone to the Super Bowl anyways. Instead of winning by like...
that game in question, they won like 45-12 or something ridiculous.
I
mean, it was...
Not just that, but they scored all their points in the second half after the balls were corrected. So even if you want to say they, underinflated the balls to do well, it didn't help them until they inflated them back up.
They should have used the defensive sabotage. They should have said somebody was trying to sabotage them, and they can prove it by doing fine when.
But I call bullshit on the Patriots not knowing anything about this, because why would a person take those footballs? I want to take these footballs to the stalls for like 60 seconds. Don't question me why. I just have a fetish, and I'm just going to go in there, and nothing's going to happen to the ball. I think they knew something was going on, and I'm pretty sure something did go on. But I don't think it really made a difference in the game. Right.
I think every quarterback kind of has a preference as to how they like the football. I think the guys who are in charge, like the equipment managers and stuff, I think they're well aware of how the quarterbacks like their footballs. And I think, if there's an opportunity to swing the odds in their favor, they're going to take it. But I don't think this is, exclusive to the Patriots, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and the Patriots, even though they've been accused and caught, red-handed before with Spygate and that kind of stuff. Every team in the league tries to get an edge. Every team. I can guarantee you that.
Well, I mean, every single quarterback likes their balls deflated, right? A little bit, because...
No, not necessarily. Because they've came out talking about how some people like them overinflated. It's personal preference.
See, I'm trying to think of why would you want to overinflate it? It makes it harder to catch, and I would assume harder to grip the ball to throw. Like, of course, you don't want to overly deflate it, but same thing with like baseball. You would want the ball to be as roughed up as possible, because it makes it so you have a better grip when you throw it.
Well, but the for roughed up in baseball makes the ball break and move in the
Right.
air better. So
Well,
in
it gives you
in
better grip too when you throw the ball.
well, sure, but most of the players in Major League Baseball do it because it helps them get more break on their ball. Um, Whereas football, and I don't know this to be true for a fact, but I assume the less inflated it is probably easier to catch, but a little bit harder to throw like a perfect spiral with because you have a little bit of kind of surface tension irregularities. Whereas the overinflated ball is easier to throw a perfect tight spiral, but harder to catch. So
Unless
I
they
think it's
overinflate with helium and they get farther distance.
So back to the end of the Super Bowl. Interception. In theory, in the end zone, I was kind of wondering, or excuse me, not quite in the end zone. I was kind of wondering how they were going to do that whole thing because he ended up going down in the end zone, but he really caught it on the 1 yard line. So I was like, what are they going to do here? But either way, they put it on the 1 yard line.
mm-hmm.
They still have to run some plays out of the back of the end zone. They can't just need the ball and win the game at this point.
Right.
What was your thought process, Mike, on what was about to go down?
I mean, it's pretty. From there, it's not really that big of a deal. You just stick in. LeGarrette Blount was the obvious choice because he's the biggest running back that the Patriots had, and just try to run him up the middle
Okay.
as best you can.
I think I'm seem to have. Oh, there we go. I lost Mark for a minute. So.
Yeah, Mark froze for a minute there.
Yeah, me too.
But at that
Oh, I
point,
lost you guys. Okay.
at that point, with the Patriots up by 4,
Well,
even if they take a
YouTube
safe,
viewers, if you're watching this video, you know that it's probably me, not them.
Considering we still
looks
got
like my
you,
signal's
bud.
pretty weak.
Mark, can you hear us?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you guys now.
That was really weird.
That was weird. But anyways, as I was saying, like if you run,
It's still
even
going.
if you're tackled in the end zone, you're still up by 2 points, and you get to punt the ball away.
Yeah,
So they have to go like 100 yards in 5 seconds.
true. But at that point, they only have to go much less yardage for a field goal.
Right, that's correct. But you're talking about they had like almost no time on the clock.
I thought they had like 40 seconds or something like that at
I
that
didn't
point.
think it was that much.
But either way, I was very disappointed at Seattle's defense on that next play.
Yeah, they should have known what's coming, but at the same time, they have to be careful, just in case you decide to get tricky and throw a pass.
Yeah, being careful doesn't mean jumping over the line and giving them 5 yards out of the end zone, though.
Well, yeah, that
It's-
was
That's what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah.
but just
That
for,
was, every player on that line should have known,
right,
get a
Right.
late start before anything.
just for the record,
It's just a lot of adrenaline.
Last bit?
last bit.
Nice.
No problem, huh?
Can't say that.
I was gonna say that had to be disgusting.
It's the disgusting part. Not bad. It's kind of burning the mouth a little bit now because
Right.
it's like acidic.
Yeah.
What you really need, Jeff, to make it taste delicious is a little zest of lemon right there.
Little lime zest on top.
You
Like,
should have. If you were smart, you would have just bought tequila with it. And you knew something was going to be involving a lime. You could have just washed it right down. So, anyways, we've been talking about this game for a long time, even though I said I'd only go 5 minutes. But so I was more curious. You always hear the Super Bowl is this giant thing, like across the globe, and it's the most watched thing ever in the world. So, Mark, in Japan, how big is the Super Bowl?
There was a Super Bowl? No, nobody talks about the Super Bowl except for maybe other American gaijins living here. But basically, football is only really big in America, maybe parts of Canada, but I don't think the rest of the world watches the Super Bowl. And to claim that it's the most watched sporting event is, that's a bunch of crock, right? There's no way that it's more heavily watched than, let's say, the World Cup.
You know what's funny is that I was curious about that. I thought about that the last World Cup because it is such a huge thing. And even the World Cup gets play in the U.S. You know, I watched a couple games, which, by the way, I just can't get into soccer. I'm sorry for those of you who are really big soccer fans. The last World Cup, I really tried. I watched like 5 games or matches, or I'm not even sure what they're called, but it's just 90 minutes of like 3 goals if you're lucky, you know.
See, I thought it was entertaining to watch the World Cup just for the fact of knowing that there's a like the bracket system that's going on, so you can actually follow teams for a few weeks and just kind of come to an ultimate culmination. I can't watch a season of it.
No.
You say that though, Mike. You're a huge hockey fan.
I know, and I was just gonna say it sounds funny because I am a hockey fan. Maybe you know what? Maybe if they added body checking and fighting to soccer, I'd be a big fan, I guess. But
How about baseball though? That's just as boring and just as long.
mm,
In fact,
baseball
that would-
games are really long. You're right.
I would argue
I've
baseball's
always-
more boring than soccer.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I would agree. Like I even go to the sporting events, and I'm trying to drink as many beers and hot dogs to keep myself entertained while watching baseball.
I love baseball. Well, when you're talking about like scoring points, any baseball game on average, the average baseball game scores more runs than soccer scores goals and it's not close. Um, for me, like the strategy of baseball is what's so intriguing. And maybe it's just because I can't appreciate the strategy of soccer because I don't know it. Even though, by the way, I coached my son's team last spring.
So how did your son?
So I probably should know it a little bit, I guess.
Did they do well?
But
What strategy of baseball are you talking about here? Swing, hit, run?
oh no. The swinging and hitting is just you have to be kind of athletically gifted to be a great hitter.
So
What's that?
what's the strategy then?
What pitch the pitcher's going to throw and where they're going to locate it, and what strategy the defense is going to take, like the defensive shift. Are they going to shift over to one side or the other? Are they
That's
going to play double play depth on this play?
I think
If there's
that's
a runner on first, are they going to send him, or is it going to be a hit and run? What's happening?
I think there's very little strategy that's involved in baseball, and it's all
Not true.
you could. I think you could pull the strategy of baseball and make it more similar to, say, the strategy of blackjack. Where, yes, on paper, there in theory can be a lot of different outcomes or a lot of different things that you could do, but they're all like algorithmically based. If this is happening now, this is what's going to happen. If I'm sitting with 17 and the dealer's showing, an ace, what am I supposed to do in that particular case? Whereas baseball's the same way. It's if we have a person on first and third, we have one out and it's a low fly ball to left field, you do X. I think that's pretty much all the strategy is in baseball from the defensive perspective.
well, especially
not true.
after
from a layman's
Moneyball
turn,
came
that's
out.
how I see it. Huh?
I think after Moneyball came out, that's exactly what baseball is turning into. Because it used to be like the coach's gut feeling on certain plays and certain players and which player's hot, which player's not. And then, Moneyball comes out and it's like, if you just follow the statistics and just follow the basic strategy, you'll do a lot better in baseball than gut feelings or, what coaches think should be done. In those certain circumstances, statistically, this is what you should do. And if you follow that, overall, your team would do much better.
See, I buy that. I completely buy that.
That's not true at all. There's a reason that the Yankees and the Tigers and the Red Sox spend $140 million when the Marlins spend 40 every year. There's still baseball is, by the way, the only sport you can still do that in.
Well, yeah,
Because
of course,
they don't
when
have a salary cap.
when you have all the best players on your baseball team, you'll have to have a lot less strategy. You can just do whatever you want. Like if I
Well,
was
then
gonna
why
play-
don't the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Tigers win every single year?
Because they're not following the algorithm.
Yeah,
That's-
I mean, they have. I mean, they could outspend, but if you outspend and you have the 10 best players, you're not going to be able to play all 10 best players every single play. So then when you have other players that you didn't spend $1 million on playing on your field and you're not following the best strategy, then that's where you're going to show your weakness.
See, I definitely think there is some strategy to baseball, but I think it's very minimal compared to many other sports out there.
Oh, I don't agree at all.
I know you don't agree. That's why it's exciting to to listen to your rebuttal.
Yeah, I don't agree at all. In fact, when you talk about like defensive strategy, in fact, I think Mark just said like there's almost no defensive strategy. They actually well, I'm trying to remember if I saw it 2 years ago or if it mainly just started last year, but on certain batters who always just sort of hit a certain way, and it's a lot of, okay, think about a right-handed batter. Okay. So you line up to the plate, and a lot of times because major league pitchers pitch so hard and fast, when you are a successful hitter, most of the time it goes out to right field because no matter how good of a hitter you are, that pitch is coming so fast that it takes you a second to get a read on it and pick up on it. And therefore your bat is kind of behind when you make contact, which hits it off to right field. There have been several teams last year who have started for certain hitters in certain situations will totally move their third baseman over just shy of second base, move their shortstop over between first and second base, literally stack one side
almost
of the
like
field.
They're following a formula.
Yeah, almost like it's a statistic that they're looking at to make these
that's exactly
choices.
right. But when you're talking about strategy, I mean, you can't get much more strategic than looking.
But that's exactly what we're saying. That's following a statistic. That's taking statistics and just following. Okay, in this certain scenario, this is normally what happens. Let's play toward that. That's exactly what statistics are.
Aren't you technically agreeing with me then that baseball is very strategic?
I think that's not. I don't think that's strategic. That's
playing odds. What are you talking about?
It's more just following statistics. Right. Whereas when you look at a game like football, whether you're going to do zone coverage, pass coverage, all that stuff, that's a crapshoot. Like you need a strategy.
Not true at all.
You don't know what should be the best thing that you're going to do. And there's more strategy involved in that because then the quarterbacks are sitting there looking at the way that you set up your defensive coverage and determining who could possibly be open right now. There's less statistics involved, in my opinion, from a perspective of football than there would be from exactly what you described in baseball is purely statistical building your strategy just completely based on statistics.
I think where we're getting confused is we're trying to say that baseball is more like formulaic. Like the strategy is following the formula. This is what should be done, and this is what I'm going to follow. When we're saying what we're saying, like with other sports, is that you have to outthink the other coach. In baseball, the other coach doesn't have to be even thought of when you're playing. Like this is the situation. It could be any coach. This is what I should do. Where with football, of course, you have a lot more strategy. Like, this is what I think the other coach is thinking.
I think Bill Belichick has deflated the balls. Therefore, playing against him, I need to.
I was going to say, we literally just spent 20 minutes talking on how Pete Carroll was, crucified for making a horrible call. Right. Because statistically, he should have ran the ball right up the middle with Marshawn Lynch.
Are there a big chunk of football that still is based on statistics? Sure.
A little bit.
Oh, yeah. I think way less of it than baseball.
I don't agree at all.
But you think there's more strategy that is not formula based in baseball than there is in football? Or do you think they're on equal playing field? I mean, some football stadiums are on baseball stadiums. They could be on equal playing fields.
I mean, I guess if you want to say more of baseball is data driven, yes, but I don't think it's pure data like you guys are talking about. Not even close.
Mark, we should start a league. Let's start our own league, straight up statistics based. Like it'll just be like practice is literally just sitting in a classroom and we drill you on what these like. It's flashcards.
Okay, all right. Look,
let's wait. I heard statistically, when you play football, you should always go on your fourth down. You shouldn't punt the ball.
That's
because
true.
overall, statistically, you'll do a much better game. But because,
Right.
and the same thing with soccer, when you're doing a shootout, statistically, shooting in the center of the goal you'll do a much you'll have a better chance of scoring.
I didn't know that last one. That's kind of interesting.
So, like, I think with a lot of sports, there's a lot of statistics where you can actually play a much better game. The thing with coaches overall is same thing with the Super Bowl. If you take a risk and not follow the statistics, sometimes you get crucified for that. And sometimes when you go and do a play that statistics says, well, you'll do better, you'll end up looking foolish. Like, so when you do a shootout in soccer, shooting at the center of the goal, you'll have a better chance of actually scoring. But if a goalkeeper stops you, everybody will look at you and say, what a stupid kick. Like, what did you do? With the football, I think statistically, everybody knew that driving the ball would give you most likely give you the touchdown. He didn't follow statistic, and now he's being crucified for
Ridiculed,
that. Yeah. So I don't know, but overall, you probably should go for the statistics.
I'm trying to think what other like sport I can connect it to. I mean, like it mainly comes down to like blackjack, Texas Hold'em, things like that. Those are straight up formula driven.
Those are very fun. Well,
if you do it right, like
when you talk blackjack, yes, Texas Hold'em. There are different types of players in Texas Hold'em. You can be definitely 100% mathematical and be a successful Hold'em player. There are other players who just play based on feel and reading other people too.
I mean, yeah, I guess reading other people would be a big part of that game because of the fact that there are technically tells out there that you could hope to be able to understand to give you an edge, but you could read them wrong. So therefore, does that bring you back to statistics and saying that following statistics would have been
not if you still play that way, regardless of how often you're wrong, I guess.
I think statistics is a little bit harder with Texas Hold'em because although when you watch a game, they'll tell you the statistics on each play, you don't know your opponent's cards. So that really throws down the odds for you, like to a more uncertainty kind of wise. So that's why maybe reading players is a little bit more of a strategy than just going based off the numbers.
Well, I mean, yeah, reading players would be huge, but in theory, you could still play the game. As Mike said, there's statistics-based players out there that I have these cards. I know X number of percentage of pairs that would be remaining in the deck would beat this set. Do I still have a good option to move forward? And it really doesn't look at what do you specifically have or you specifically have. It's what could anybody possibly have against me right now.
And anymore, like that's kind of a good strategy going into Texas Hold'em because so many people were brought up on that strategy of just bluff a lot and you'll be successful. With the whole Doyle Brunson like super system book that became this huge phenomenon, 6-8 years ago, whatever it was.
Was their super system just to bluff?
Yeah, that's basically what it preached, was just be super aggressive all the time, and a majority of the time you're going to pick up hands because people are scared to bet when they don't have anything. So now, kind of a hybrid because of that is don't worry about what the other guy's doing, no matter how much they're raising or whatever, because your hand is your hand no matter what. And
but then you do have to mix in, I forgot, because there's other people's betting that you have to like match or raise. Yeah, I guess that does bring that into a much harder game to follow statistics on, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be really interesting to see a Texas Hold'em game where a guy who loses a hand just kept showing his flop just to screw the people who are card counting, because then as soon as you show your cards, they have to recalculate everything that they sort of been.
Well, in Hold'em, they don't. You can't card count in Hold'em. They redeal every hand.
Well, no, that's fine, but you know the number of cards, right, that you have in your hands. You know what's showing, and the possibilities of the person their hand. But if you show your flop, that changes the statistics quite a bit, because that erases or adds like the probability of the person's hand by knowing what
Well,
other people's hands are.
but you're saying if someone folds and shows their cards anyway?
Right.
Well,
Because they
then
don't
you're
usually do
still
that, but
everyone at
just
the table still has the same mathematical odds because everyone knows those cards. Well, not the same odds of winning the hand, but they have the
right.
same
They have their
advantage.
odds beforehand, but when you see somebody else's hands, that changes your odds. And
Mm.
then that would like because then if you're betting aggressive, you see this person's hands, you might not want to bet aggressive anymore, or maybe even more so. So I think that would make it a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I like blackjack.
I
Much
like
more
it.
mathematical.
How about basketball though? Like statistically,
Not
what you
not as
should
mathematical. Well, it could be. I don't know.
Yeah, I was
statistically
going to
for
say,
basketball,
it depends what game you're talking. The
what?
college game is very like, so once you get to the NBA, everybody pretty much has good players at every position. So then it becomes a kind of who has the best individual player to some degree. Um, and that's kind of why I am not nearly the NBA fan as I am a college basketball fan, because in college basketball,
More wild cards?
even the great teams, the Dukes and North Carolinas and this year Kentucky, who by the way is still undefeated, they look like they're for real this year. Um, but
They'll go out the first round of
yeah, I was
March
gonna say
Madness.
let's not even bring Kentucky into this because they look like they're gonna graduate and send four guys to the NBA. But most of the time, even the good schools like the Dukes and stuff, they might only send one player to the NBA or two players to the NBA, which means they have all these holes. Not holes. I mean, they're still decent college players, but they're areas where they can be exploited by the right team who plays the right strategy against them. Which, by the way, every year for March Madness is why we have a weird Cinderella team from a small conference that comes up because they have decent players and they just run into the right matchups and exploit the right weaknesses, have the right game plan to
Now,
knock off some big dogs.
now, what would be your strategy to have the best basketball team for whatever league, like NBA or college football? Because there's actually only two things I think you really need to have a really great basketball team.
Money, players.
That's it.
That's
That'll do it.
it.
That's all you need.
See, because when I watch basketball, I always think the way it's played is really weird. And one is when the other team, like you just scored a point, right? And the other team has the ball. Why drive back to your own baseline? Why don't shouldn't you be guarding those players on the other side trying to steal the ball? Like nobody really does that.
Well,
And
no,
it
Nobody
it's
shows,
hustles in the NBA.
it's because
Yeah,
they
you
also
should.
they also
So,
go. I mean, you're playing more of a man coverage in basketball, right, Mike?
Not always, and not always in the pros even.
right. And there've been like basketball teams that aren't as good as these other colleges, and if when they guard the offensive team, it's been shown that they can do a lot better if the other team's not doing it as well. They're more likely to make mistakes, and you can recover the ball more often. You just have to play your team a much harder.
Without like hard and fast statistics, I would say the zone defense is way more prevalent in college ball. But again, I think that's because you have to make up for your areas of weakness, whereas zone is easier to play if you don't have guys that are great, man on
Like
man kind of defensive guys.
when I used to watch the Pistons, what's that guy's name with the that used to wear the mask? I don't know if he still does.
Rip Hamilton.
Yeah, Rip Hamilton. I always thought he was a really great player. If more of his teammates played like him, they would recover a higher.
If
a
they
much higher
all wore
percentage.
masks, it would be
Yeah, good,
like.
scary man. No, but no, like if they all covered their players like him, they would probably recover a lot more balls and then score a lot more points. So I mean, I think all players should basically never give the offense a chance to bring it to their side of the court.
Well, it's easier said than done. Like Rip Hamilton ran like no other. I mean, he spent the whole game just running and running like a maniac.
And I think that's something coaches should train their players to do,
But, I'm not sure. Rip Hamilton is going to go down in history not as a great player, as a pretty good player, but not great.
No.
I don't think he'll make the Hall of Fame.
Well, here's the thing. Like, one Rip Hamilton is not going to help your team that much. It'll help a little bit. But if
he won a championship.
you have a team of Rip Hamiltons, that's where you're going to see a marketable difference. Like, basically, if you have...
disagree. I totally disagree. Because Rip Hamilton could never, ever cover Shaq if he wanted to back him down into the lane.
He just, according to Mark, he just never let him get the ball.
Well, no. Shaq would have to drive the ball, basically pushing Rip all the way down. And Shaq can only play so many... he's not going to play the whole game.
However, Shaq had like a 2-foot height advantage on Rip Hamilton. So he could literally just inbound the ball to himself, just throw it up high and put his arm like this, like you see adults versus kids, and the kid's jumping for it.
Well, no. I mean,
that'd be Rip Hamilton.
If you're playing
pass
at Shaq,
down the whole court just like that.
No, you're playing at Shaq. You try to just take the charge as many times as possible. I mean, you might get trampled like, an elephant taking you down, but
as long as you have a bench full of yourselves, like a bench full of Rip Hamiltons to replace your dead corpse after you get charged by Shaq.
Besides just covering your players, I also think that you should train basically all your players to make 3-point shots and just focus on 3-point shots. Now, you would have to make your players statistically have a very high percentage of making those 3-point shots, but you can recruit players that are 3-point shooters. And I think overall, if you get a whole bunch of 3-point shooters, you'll score enough points. So, as many, slam dunk players that are on the other side, you'll outscore them every time.
Let's just take it a step further. Let's just train everybody to do half-court shots, because if you have a whole team of people who can do half-court shots all the time, then they don't need to get mixed up with the defense.
If you can get it up to the 75% range from half, why not?
But number one, you're never going to get 75% from half court. But there are teams in college basketball, like if you want to pay attention to the tournament this year, and I'm way behind on my college basketball watching, which I hate, but I'm about to get back into it. Now that football's over, I'm really going to start focusing. But just about every single year, Duke is a great team for what you were just talking about. They have all these guys who can shoot 3-pointers, and they always say in college basketball, you live and die by this 3-pointer, because guess what? Guys, no matter how good of shooters they are, even if they're 40% from behind that 3-point line, they're going to have bad days. And if you wind up in the tournament and a couple of your shooters have bad days, you're in trouble. And that's what happens to Duke just about every year. Is that they have all these guys, they win a lot of games, they get to the tournament, a couple guys have a bad day, and they're in trouble. Or not even just a bad day. Like if you have guys on the opposite team who are great defensively and tall, lanky, long-armed guys who can get in their face, they're going to have a bad day.
You need fadeaway shots, 3-point fadeaway shots. That solves all your problems.
You're still shooting those at 30% if you're good.
I mean, like I said, you have to make sure that you get the percentage high, up there. Yeah, people are going to have bad days, but if you have, like, let's say 4 or 5, on average, even with bad days, you're usually not going to have days where it's like 20% shooters all of a sudden for your whole team.
Watch Duke this year in the tournament. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, I have to go wash my hands because they are very sticky from from that 11.
And what you did beforehand, but yeah.
Well,
it's residual.
Whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife?
I keep them separated. sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone. I'm like, "F them."
Wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart. But sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Go.
Therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?